During your response to her heckling of you, you used the word illegal when talking about the man who allegedly killed Laken Riley.
An undocumented person. Look, they built the country. The reason our economy is growing.
He's a murderer. Well, you remember this moment in the State of the Union when Marjorie Taylor Greene basically dared Joe Biden to actually say Laken Riley's name. He did, even though he got her name wrong. Here's how it went.
I'd be a winner. Not really. Laken Riley.
Yeah, so Laken Riley, by the way, is the head coach of the USC Trojans. They're joining the Big Ten this year. Good luck, Trojans. Fight on. It's not Lincoln Riley. Her name is Laken Riley. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, say her name, and he doesn't say it right. In fact, you look at the pin right there that he's holding. That's a pin that Marjorie Taylor Greene gave him as he was entering the House chamber. It literally says her name on it, spelled properly, Laken. And he says Lincoln Riley. And then he said this.
An innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand.
Oh, well, of course he had to make it about himself and his children who died. It's not quite the same thing. I'm not sure that your son, Beau, a grown adult, the Attorney General of Delaware, was killed by an illegal alien who shouldn't have been in this country. And did you catch what he said there? Sure, she was died by an illegal, but what about the thousands of people who are killed by legals every day? Legals. You and I are legals. I'm sure that's really exciting to know that the president thinks of you as a legal. We're called citizens, Mr. President, American citizens. But it is interesting that he acknowledges the fact that thousands of people are being murdered every day in the Democrat-run cities that have turned into war zones under his and his party's leadership. But if you're a Democrat and you see that moment in the State of the Union, you only have one real objection to what he had to say. And it had nothing to do with the policy that led to the murder of Laken Riley. And it has nothing to do with the fact that we live in these war zones in these major American cities where there is rampant crime, violent crime, and murder. No, your heart goes out to the illegal alien murderer because Joe Biden accurately referred to him as illegal.
Dan.
Now, you should have said undocumented, but it's not a big thing. Okay. What's the big thing about it?
No, I actually wasn't even going to ask about that. I was just going to ask more about the moment. But you do think that he should have?
That really is kind of my favorite part there. Dana Bash puts her on television and says, hey, I want you to react to this moment. And Nancy Pelosi's initial gut reaction is, okay, fine. He shouldn't have said illegal. He should have said undocumented. But is that really a big deal? Come on. Dana Bash is like, actually, we weren't even going to ask you about that. It never occurred to us that that was the problem. By the way, Nancy Pelosi has now had to apologize because she downplayed the importance of calling an illegal alien, which, by the way, is a legal term. That's what the federal government designates these people. That's how they're designated in the Justice Department and in the Department of Homeland Security for their legal proceedings. But later on, the next day, Joe Biden got the message, and he recognized how bad it was.
Do you regret using the word illegal to describe immigrants last night, sir?
Well, not probably. I don't regret it. It was technically not supposed to be here.
Yeah, the journalist. Do you sometimes feel like we live in two different worlds? You get your moment to ask the president a question with a roaring 747 jet engine screaming in the background as he's about to go up the short stairs because he can't make it up the big boy stairs at the Air Force One. And you have this great moment. Not a lot of people have the privilege, the opportunity to ask the president of the United States a question on our behalf. And this reporter decides that the question is, Do you regret using the term illegal when referring to immigrants? And of course, the natural answer is, well, no, not if I'm referring to illegal immigrants. Is there no distinction? And of course, to the American left, there is no distinction. They think that everyone around the world has a right to come here, whether they wait in line or go through the legal process or not. And no one there seemed like they wanted to ask the more important question. I don't know. Let's set aside for a second whether you have any regret using the proper legal term, illegal immigrant. How about this one? Do you regret having policies that led to the murder of a young, innocent woman? Anyone want to ask that question? Anyone want to throw that one out there? But of course, Joe Biden flummoxed by this. He's like, well, you know, technically he's not supposed to be here. What do you mean technically he's not supposed to be here? By every possible account, he is in this country illegally. And Joe conceding that technically he's not supposed to be here, aren't you conceding the fact that technically you should have deported him instead of welcomed him and protected him? Again, all of those events leading to the murder of Laken Riley. But this snowball kept rolling down the mountain and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Once again on Capitol Hill the next day, woke squad member congresswomen see what the real problem here with Biden's border disaster that led to the murder of a young girl.
He should have used the word undocumented. I don't believe that the president's heart is with the word illegal. I think, frankly, I think he shouldn't have responded to a very disrespectful Republican member who was shouting at him, the president of the United States. That is not appropriate.
Yeah, that's not appropriate. So the problem here is using the term illegal instead of undocumented and shouting from the gallery to the president of the United States. That's the problem. Again, not the crime in our streets, not the murder of innocent children at the hands of these policies that led directly to it. By the way, last time we checked with her, wasn't she rallying on behalf of Hamas terrorists that murdered and raped and decapitated over 1,000 people in Israel? I mean, she's the one to lecture us on proper decorum and values. Well, finally, Joe Biden had to do some real damage control. He went on MSNBC and cleaned up this mess that he created over the weekend.
I noticed the look of surprise on your face when you walked into the chamber and you saw Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. It was priceless. You feigned shock at seeing her. But during your response to her heckling of you, you used the word illegal when talking about the man who allegedly killed Laken Riley.
An undocumented person. And I shouldn't have used illegal. It's undocumented. And look, when I spoke about the difference between Trump and me, one of the things I talked about on the border was that the way he talks about vermin, the way he talks about these people polluting the blood. I talked about what I'm not going to do, what I won't do. I'm not going to treat any of these people with disrespect. Look, they built the country. The reason our economy is growing. We have to control the border and more orderly flow, but I don't share his view at all.
So you regret using that word?
Yes.
He's a murderer. He's a murderer. And he's twisting himself into knots. The left, Jonathan Capehart of MSNBC and the Washington Post, are forcing him at gunpoint to apologize to the murderer for calling him illegal instead of undocumented. By the way, he has documents, by the way. Otherwise, why would we know he's from Venezuela? Why would we know he has his... Undocumented is a fake designation. There's no such thing as an undocumented person. He has documents. He just doesn't have legal documents, which means he has illegal documents because he's an illegal immigrant. But put all that aside. He's a murderer. And they're worried about his feelings? I'm told, I have it on very good authority, that the Trump administration, the Trump campaign, I should say, they're very concerned about these suburban moms out there, these suburban moms in Michigan, suburban moms in Pennsylvania and Atlanta and Georgia and down in Arizona, these suburban moms, some of them in Pennsylvania, although really I think the problem in Pennsylvania is stuff in the ballot box in Philadelphia. But But they're very worried about these suburban moms, the suburban moms in Wisconsin, outside of Milwaukee. You know, because they have to go to their Tupperware parties and their Chardonnay parties, and they got to hang out with the other moms on the side of the soccer field as they watch 6-year-old kids chase a ball around. And they don't want to admit that they voted for Donald Trump. You know, they want to wring their hands and they want to feel good about themselves. They don't want to feel guilty about all of the benefits that they have because they made good choices in their life. It feels wrong because, well, Oprah and Meghan Markle have explained to them that they are privileged. They have white privilege. And so they feel really awful about voting for Trump because he's a meanie face. That's what I'm told, at least. So any of you suburban moms out there right now, or if you know a suburban mom in your life, can you just send them this message, please, or maybe share this video with them? Because if you feel icky about voting for Donald Trump, you need to recognize who you will be voting for. Joe Biden and his party and his partners in the media in evaluating the circumstances of the murder of this 22-year-old girl, this innocent girl, Laken Riley. They have determined that she is not your priority. Excuse me, she is not their priority. They really don't care about your daughter. They really don't care about you or your family and your sensibilities and your very hurt feelings when your daughter gets murdered. No, their priority is the illegal alien murderer that killed your daughter. That is what they have demonstrated here. So I suggest to you that you get a Biden yard sign and you start cutting your hair like Kamala Harris and you wear a Biden-Harris 4 more years button everywhere you go when you've got your Tupperware parties or your Chardonnay tastings or your soccer games. And then on Election Day, or even better, a couple of weeks before Election Day, so you can get that dang ballot in the mail ahead of time, just in case the machines don't work on Election Day, because it's crazy how that happens when Republicans vote on Election Day. You get your ballot in and you vote for the guy who didn't apologize using the term illegal alien. You should vote for the guy who, while Joe Biden was doing this on MSNBC, he was meeting with Laken Riley's grieving mother. He was embracing Laken Riley's grieving mother, saying this should have never happened. And if I'm president, it won't happen to another mother in this country. Not on his watch. It's just that simple. In fact, that man, Donald Trump, who did meet with Laken Riley's family over the weekend, while Joe Biden was apologizing for doing irrevocable harm to her murderer by not referring to him as undocumented, Donald Trump had a rally. Benny Johnson was there with his camera. And if you're wondering how Donald Trump is going to approach the whole illegal alien versus undocumented migrant question, this should leave no doubt.
When I say he was an illegal alien, he was an illegal immigrant, he was an illegal migrant, and he shouldn't have been in our country, and he never would have been under the Trump policy. And Biden should be apologizing for apologizing to this killer.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. And you know what? Let's let Tim Scott have the last word on this, because he was asked the same question about the labels that we're putting on the murderer and hurting his feelings, and even more importantly, the party who protects the murderer's feelings at all costs.
Joe Biden is more worried about using the word illegal or undocumented. The word he should use is murderer. Here we have Donald Trump, our president, sitting down with Laken Riley's family, and you have Joe Biden apologizing for what word he used. We need a president who's serious about saving American lives by closing the southern border with a Trump wall. We need a president who is serious about saving American lives by reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy. Maria, we need a president who is serious enough about saving 70,000 Americans who are dying to fentanyl by getting serious and tough on our border. We don't need a president who's going to backstep and apologize for using the word illegal versus undocumented when the word he should just use is murderer. That is disrespectful to the Riley family. And I'm so thankful that President Trump sat down with the family and made the commitment that I would make as well, which is simply, we will close our southern border and save the sons and daughters of this nation by putting America first.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely positively presidential. Vice presidential. Just speculating.